So hello, my name is Chad Kassem from Acoustic Sounds, and today I got this chairman and CEO of Atlantic Records with me, Craig Kallman. Craig's come to Salina, Kansas, which ain't exactly some place he's ever been to before, but we kind of now feel that Salina is the center of the vinyl universe.
That's for sure.
And I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, no doubt.
So I've been knowing Craig for, I think 25 years. I have to say, man, I think I'm one of the most passionate people there is in collecting vinyl and being into this. But I can easily say I met my match. You beat me by a country mile. I mean, me and Craig have been here for the last 3 days, and I got tired watching him. For 14 hours a day, his head was in crates. And I mean, he's fast, he's accurate. I was worn out when I got to bed, and I'm thinking, I didn't even do anything but watch you, you know? I mean, the passion, dude, I mean, I'm just so impressed. Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got started collecting, when and how you got to be the the CEO and chairman of Atlantic, and how all that worked, where it started, and I think I'm interested to know.
Sure. Well, it started, I was very fortunate. I had a dad who was a big music fan. So growing up at the youngest of ages, 7, 8, 9, 10, he had a wall of records, all genres. So I got the bug early. He was also taking me to concerts early. And by about 12 years old, 13, I started my own collecting, sort of based on first the music that I got exposed to growing up, and then started to develop just my own taste in music. And pretty much every birthday, every Christmas, all I ever wanted were vinyl records as a gift. And I was fortunate because I lived in the record stores of Manhattan and New York City, where there were just tons of amazing record stores and all genres of music you can collect. So I spent my Saturdays and Sundays just living in the record stores pretty much. And I basically, I was very lucky in one of the record stores, 99 Records, where I saw Rick Rubin drop off his first band on Def Jam, Hose, that he was in, and it was a little downtown sort of New York scene, hanging out in Vinyl Mania and Downtown Records and 99. And when I was 15, 16, I met a DJ named Richard Vasquez, who was DJing at a bunch of the big clubs in New York. And we just struck up a conversation in 99 Records, and he told me about DJing and invited me to his place to show me what it was all about. So I had this amazing mentor at 16, and pretty soon I was just living in his house on the weekends, DJing and apprenticing. And I started to make my own demo tapes and of DJing as a mixer and passing them around to all the big nightclubs in New York City, and fortunately got a call one day to come down to DJ because their resident DJ didn't show up, and I had like an hour to pack up some records and DJ, go down to this club, and
You was nervous.
I was nervous, yeah, and it was like the opportunity of a lifetime. I had to ask my dad because it was a weeknight, and I had school, I had homework, I
How
had
many
tests.
people in the club?
This was this club called the Mansion. It was like a private party, so it was probably like just 300 people. This was a small one.
Small one. I imagine
but,
that no telling what was going on in the crowd.
Yeah.
You can't talk about that.
I loaded out. It turned out to be kind of more of like a business crowd, Wall Street crowd. So
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect. They didn't prepare me, so I literally loaded up every genre of music that I had in my collection, and I just brought tons of milk cartons full of records. And really all I needed was Michael Jackson Thriller and some Motown, and that's all anyone cared to listen to.
But did you have it?
Thank God I brought like the Motown's greatest hits and Michael Jackson. But
How did you could feel right away when you saw the
crowd.
The crowd, you could tell what.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but once I got in as a DJ, then I made demo tapes from there, and I got called back at a club called First City, which became the Cat Club, and that was a real club, pretty big
What
size.
years were we talking?
This is 1981, 82, so 16, 17 for me. And that basically led to other clubs, and before long I was DJing at Area, the Palladium, Danceteria, the World, the Tunnel, pretty much throughout my high school years. And at the same time, the record industry started talking about the compact disc and the CD. And I basically, when the first generation CDs came out, I rigged my sound system, so with a flick of a switch, I could go back and forth on the same recordings. I went and bought, Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac, Parliament, whatever CDs were in the first generation, and basically put on, Led Zeppelin 4 on CD, and then the same on vinyl. And of course the vinyl sounded warm and euphonic, and made my hair stand up, gives you chills on music you love. And the compact disc was harsh and brittle and elicited no emotion.
Yeah.
And so, to answer your question in a long-winded fashion, that was kind of the beginning of why I started voraciously collecting records, because the music industry was talking about basically the death of vinyl and making vinyl extinct or near extinct. And so I kind of started to panic because there was so much music that I hadn't heard yet or bought yet that I didn't want my first experience of it to be on CD. And so I basically started going to the library. This is, of course, pre the internet, and bookstores buying every book about the entire sort of history of a genre, whether it's reggae, jazz, blues, rock and roll, heavy metal, punk, you name it. And I basically started making lists of all the important artists in every genre. And so if Fela Kuti had 82 albums, I wrote them all down. If John Coltrane had 63 albums. I wrote them all down.
And you found this at the library, right? Like,
yeah, you had to go to the library to
it's amazing.
Books and
what's at our fingertips now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't have any of that. And so, yeah, and it was all
I think you learned better doing it the way you did it.
Student.
Yeah, because it's harder to get the information. You appreciated it and it sunk in better than I think.
Definitely. So I basically kind of set off to Noah's Ark, the history of music on vinyl, before it disappeared. So I was using every dollar I made from DJing, and just poured it into collecting records.
Well, I don't think you've changed much.
No, it's.
I think
you slice
still,
me open. I'm still,
You're still panicking, and you're still trying. You're still trying to fill in those gaps. You would think you don't have too many gaps to fill in by now, but we walk in the warehouse. Your eyes lit up like it was Christmas time, and we were 8 years old, and we got 4 carts. He filled up every cart. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, Craig, listen, dude, we got to get up early. Like, this is very hard for me to do because, I like selling records. But, so they had about this much left on the 4th cart. And I'm like, okay, it's 20 minutes till 1. Either I'm going to tell them, hey, we're stopping at 1, or we're stopping when you finish that last cart. And finally, we kind of got to wrapping it up. But I swear, I don't think if I would have drug you out of there, we'd still be in there, And I just don't see that kind of passion, man. And this is what you do for a living every day. And a lot of times when people do this stuff every day, they lose the love of it, man. And and you haven't lost. It's just amazing that the passion that you have, and what I saw, and another thing I thought about, and my father is a businessman, a good businessman. He's had many businesses. He told me one day, he goes, you probably won't be doing this forever, and it shocked me. I'm like, Dad, what do you mean? Of course, I'm going to do this forever. He goes, no, not all businesses last forever, and you do other things. And I'm like, and it shocked me. I couldn't believe. And so we're still doing, I couldn't see doing anything else.
Yeah, same.
Same for you.
Yeah.
And this is from when you were a teenager, or before, actually.
Yeah.
So it's just unbelievable. So then, when did you get your first job in, like, for a label, or no? You started your own label, right?
Yeah, I was lucky living in New York. I got some jobs at, my first job was Billboard magazine, working in the chart department. And I got another job at Factory Records, working, amazing bands, New Order and Joy Division and stuff. And it was a really small office in New York that they had. And I graduated from Brown in '87 and got both of these jobs, and then was just real fortunate. And I was still DJing, and I would spend pretty much Saturdays in the stores, the record stores, to figure out what new records to play on the weekend. And I was in one record store, Downtown Records, and the guy behind the counter was playing a piece of music that I was like, oh, that's really great. What is that? And it was just an instrumental. And I said, can I buy that? And he said, no, it's just a demo tape And I asked him if I could get involved with that demo and turn it into a record. And he gave me the number of who had done it. And I called him up literally in the store, and I was looking on the wall of the record store and saw an artist that I thought would be great to put this vocal on top of this instrumental. And so I tracked that artist down to see if he was signed, and he wasn't signed. He was on an independent label, and he was available. So I convinced him, the guy that did the demo, and a buddy of mine who had a bunch of equipment to come to my house and set up like a mini studio so I could record this artist. And basically, you know, I wrote the lyrics in my bathroom, and
You wrote the lyrics?
We recorded this record in my house, basically.
No kidding.
And
what year?
This is
87?
1987, yeah. And then I had this record that I was like, it's kind of too good to just not figure out how to put out. So yes, I was going to play it in the clubs when I was DJing, but I basically, you know, went and bought this book, This Business of Music, and just read up on everything I needed to do to be a record label, and found a lawyer so I could get a contract drawn up, and found a pressing plan, and found a place to do the labels. Richard Vasquez actually was an art designer, graphic designer as well, so he did my logo.
What pressing plant?
And it was called Music Connection.
The pressing plant?
They were a broker to a plant.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, you know, basically used all my DJ money and pressed up 1,000 records. And since I was in the DJ scene, I knew, you know, a lot of the DJs around New York.
How to get them played.
So I ran to every club with a free copy and gave them a promo copy to get it played in the club. And basically I just set up my answering machine. I called it Big Beat Records, and I still had my jobs at Factory and Billboard. I was working with New Music Seminar, and basically figured out how to distribute it in retail. I borrowed a shopping cart from the supermarket, loaded up boxes of records, and wheeled them up and down the streets of Manhattan, going door to door.
You kidding me?
To every mom and pop.
They were that close? I mean, close enough to...
Yeah, they were all close. Oh yeah, they were all close.
Oh, what a life it looks like a movie. I can see you doing that. I mean, but what other place could you have go from door to door?
Yeah, there were so many record stores in New York City back then, and tons of DJ stores.
So they were playing, hitting.
Yeah, and then I had to borrow my dad's car to go to Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, you know, all the boroughs, and then drive to New Jersey, drive to Long Island. And the record, you know, started to sell. I would come home every day from my other jobs, and my answering machine would be filled up with record stores saying, oh, we need another 25 of them. And so, long story short, I ended up selling like 5,000 records, which for me was a lot, you know, and basically made like $5,000 from it. And I thought, if I can do this 4 more times, I could make 20 grand a year. I'll be happy as a clam, and that's all I need to make. And I can quit all my jobs and just run my record label full time. So I was in one of the clubs DJing called The Tunnel, and I was playing this record by this artist called Moonfu. The record was shut up, and sheer coincidence, this kid who made the record was in the club while I played it. So he came up to the DJ booth, And we started talking, and I told him I had a record label. He knew the record I put out. And I said, "Are you signed?" He said, "No, I'm not signed." I said, "Well, let's go do a record together." And so he was like, "Let's do it." I booked a studio, and we came up with the line from Strafe, "Y'all want this party started right," and kind of created a house anthem type record, trying to be a house anthem. And the first record I had done was a house record, and I put it out in the same routine. I did, all the distribution, all the stores, but this time, my phone number was on the record, and I started getting calls from Florida, Texas, California. So I had to go fly in all these states to figure out how to do distribution and get my record around the country, as opposed to just the Northeast, which I had done the first record. So I basically figured out how to set up independent distribution around the country with all these different one-stops. And then I started getting calls from England, France, Germany, Australia.
Damn, huh?
And now I'm flying to Europe, going to all the different labels for licensing deals, and basically figured out how to license my record around the world. And then started getting calls from nightclubs everywhere in the world. And so we started getting on planes and going. I was helping the group. There was no manager at the time. So we would literally go to Italy and France, driving up and down all the nightclubs, booking mini tours. And basically this one record that I made was crazed, called The Party, ended up selling like 300,000 copies.
No kidding.
And that was enough for me to quit all my jobs and basically do the record label full time.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, I can think about, I had another job, like I was at a light bulb factory, and there was a time where I started making 3 times the money selling records,
Right.
Basically out of my apartment. But I could still do the other job, right? So am I being lazy to quit the other job because I can do them both? And then I realized, well, man, I'm making 3 times more selling records. So this job's costing me money. Working for the normal job, I was losing money. So, I mean, you came to that same thing, right? Like at some point you had to, let's see, might be our same years. That would be about 88 for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly the year I came out.
Where I had to make that decision. I mean, I was in an apartment, and all right, so we're in 88, you got your own record label, you hit a smash hit, home run, grand slam, then what? Quit your job, now you're in the record business.
Yeah, now I'm trying to collect my money from all the distributors and realize that's not as easy as you would think it should be. And the only way to really get really paid is to
have
make
another hit.
One. Exactly.
Yeah.
So fortunately, the next 2 records, one of them, it was this girl group I signed locally called Jomanda, and we made a record. It was a record they had called Make My Body Rock. And I put that out, and that record hit. And I started to have a succession of hit records in between the misses. But basically, built the company up from doing 50,000 the first year to 500,000 the second, to $1 million the third, 2 million the fourth. And that's when the majors started calling, and I started doing meeting the bigger labels, because now by this time I had 12 employees. I had a big payroll and lots of outstanding invoices, and just felt as the business was, music videos were getting really important, and it was just a lot more expensive to do business, and if you really wanted to have your group go around the worldwide, you needed a major. So I thought the best way to really break my artist in a big scale was to team up with a label, and that's when Atlantic Records called, and I did some meetings there with Amit and Doug Morris, and they were interested in buying half a Big Beat, so I sold half a Big Beat to Atlantic, and then we got along super well. I was kind of in the office of the chairman learning, and they said a few months later we want to buy the other half of the company, and so I sold it, and then I've been at Atlantic ever since. That was 1991.
Wow. So something that came to my mind is, do you see some of your records when you're going through these collections?
Oh, sure.
Did you see any in that one?
Not in this
that
one. No.
So you see, yeah, that must be kind of fun to see your records in the collections. Yeah. So it's house music that
it started but then I expanded into hip hop and reggae and just kind of DJ culture records, that are breakbeat records. So it's kind of doing a little bit of everything by then.
Have you ever heard of Trax or Track?
Sure.
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Well, I bought all their presses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the last time I bought like 12 presses, it was theirs, and they still had the labels.
Oh, wow.
And the guy was doing just like you. He would record the record, and the next day he'd already have it mastered and pressed, and he would drive his car around to the places. And his girlfriend was named Screamin' Rachel.
Yeah, sure.
You heard of her?
She was an artist, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, she was a big club artist, yeah.
So they were telling me the story. They were also bootlegging Beatles 78s and sending them to India. India was buying 78s in the late 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. Right, so, Screamin' Rachel, I just couldn't, it's such a funny story, and to hear about 78's bootleg, and that's what shut them down.
Mm-hmm.
So I found these in downtown Chicago, and I mean, it was below zero. I took the guy out, he told me the story. I says, we go to Illuminati's for pizza. I said, hey, listen, dude. I said, you got three choices with these presses. You can sell them to me. You can fix them up yourself and use them. You can sell it to me, or we can do a combination of the two. But you need to do something. Those things have been in a warehouse for 15 years. You got to do one of these three things. I don't care, but you. So I take another bite of pizza. I said, or you could sell it to me. That was like the third. So he takes another bite. He says, well, I want this amount. I said, all right, dude. I said, tomorrow morning, I'm either going to say yes or no. I'm not going to grind you nothing. I'm going to yes or no. But don't change your mind. You can't change your mind between now and then, because we're going to really rack our brains doing some figuring. You know what I mean? We're going to spend all night, calculating if this is a good deal or not. And I'm not going to grind on you. It's either yes or no in the morning, but you cannot change your mind. So it's like zero. And I'm not exaggerating at all in Chicago. So we go to this guy's thing, and I wrote him the check. And Gary was with me, and so Gary went to the bathroom, I gave him the check, and then I started moving stuff and boxing. Gary, get that. He goes, hey, what? I said, get that, let's move it. He goes, did you buy it? I'm like, yeah. He goes, when? I'm like, you were in the bathroom, let's go. So anyway, I can't believe you knew when you
That's a
said
great
house,
story.
because I don't even really know.
That was an iconic label.
Really?
Tracks. Oh yeah.
So this guy seemed like a real character. This I don't know his name. I just can remember, but I could show you the labels. So okay, so then you're working with Ahmed and you're working at Atlantic, and then you're doing what, and then what was the next job, and what was the next job like within?
It was always A&R. For me at Atlantic, I was just, trying to find acts both for Big Beat or Atlantic, and started to have some early successes. Signed band Inner Circle. We had this record, Bad Boys, What You Gonna Do, with the theme from Kyle.
Oh, you kidding me?
And then they had a second single on that same album, Sweat, so we ended up selling a few million copies of that.
Dang.
And I signed just a bunch of stuff. I did a deal with Blackground to bring Aaliyah over to us, and started making the Aaliyah album, putting Timberland and Missy together with Aaliyah, and then I...
Is Aaliyah, is she getting a
passed
plane
away.
plane
Yeah.
crash?
Yeah, tragic.
Wow, man,
Yeah,
that...
terrible. But started working on this girl Brandy, A&R and Brandy, and signed another reggae kid called Sean Paul, and did the movie, did a bunch of soundtracks, did Space Jam.
Wow.
And it was just kind of just worked my way up as.
And Ahmed was your mentor? I mean, like he
Ahmed
really...
and Doug, yeah, and of course Ahmed, died tragically at the Rolling Stones concert. That really, was a terrible blow.
How old was he?
God, I can't even remember.
He was in his 80s, right?
Yeah, I think.
So, so when did you call me? Like when did...
Well, I think we became friends like that late 80s.
Right.
Early 90s.
Well, that was at the
Yeah.
beginning. I can remember you calling about Led Zeppelin, wanting some Mobile Fidelity Led Zeppelin and different records, and it's like I could hear like new style of music in the background, and I just pictured you, in an office listening to music, and then it just like with all of my customers, the longer they buy, and then if they get to talking to you, they explain what you're looking for. Hey, what are you looking for? What do you like? And then you make friends all over the world, man. I mean, like, and then you get to know your customer and what they want, and then sometimes you become better friends with people on the phone than your friends that you live around, and so, I mean, it's been a long time you've been buying records from us, and we appreciate the business, and we appreciate the friendship, which is really, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, because like I said, I didn't know, I've learned everything from my customer, and people like you giving me some advice, hey man, people are really wanting this, or they like this, or did you ever think that vinyl would come back the way it has?
No, I was always thinking it was going to go away because the majors were controlling it, and they were making so much money on the CD, when the CD first came out, and of course it took off. So it was a higher price point, so the labels were making more money, and you could see and fear potentially the end, other than a very, very small group of artists each year would still insist on their records on vinyl. and often it was not even, you couldn't even get it in the U.S. You had to go overseas and or buy imports from UK or Germany, Japan. So there was definitely a significant stretch where vinyl was, on its last legs.
What I say when people ask me that question is, I knew LPs would never die, but what I didn't see coming was CDs dying like they did.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I knew vinyl would never die. I just didn't see CDs dying like it did. Now, did I think it was gonna come now where, there's certain labels in our warehouse that you saw that like empty. It was like the grocery store, what happened in the world where the toilet paper rations, just now, where you went to the grocery store and there was no toilet paper. I mean, it's like there's no records were out. We can't press them. Now that, I don't think anybody saw coming. But it's, hey, it's a good problem to have, you know what I'm saying? It's a problem. But so anyway, we appreciate you coming. Sometimes I wonder, well, you still haven't seen the pressing plant or the recording studio, which we got to go see. We got to go because we got a plane to catch. But I've always wanted you to come. So happy you did.
Yeah, thanks.
I hope that what you've seen wasn't a letdown, or you don't feel like it was.
It was amazing. It was such a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, to have someone come from New York and actually come to Salina, Kansas, and be impressed with the amount of records, that's makes us feel pretty good. I just pulled out a few records. We were talking about this, the Skinner Street Survivors, and they were going to Baton Rouge when they got in that plane wreck, and they have the Street Survivor.
Oh, wow.
It's called the Survival Kit. So I mean, it's kind of weird. They were on their way to Baton Rouge when they wrecked, and then here was the tour. And it shows right here. Let's see. Oh, it was only like their fourth or fifth gig on this tour. And so they had the tour date and the survival kit, and then the Flames, that is just pretty weird. Then they recalled I mean, this isn't our rarest record or nothing, just...
Yeah, but they deleted that cover.
Yeah, the cover. Here's original Blue Note, Cannonball Adderley, Something Else with the Deep Groove, the Deep Groove label. Same with the Blue Train.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite albums, Willie Dixon and Memphis Slim on Bluesville. That original Buddy Holly. Here's a sealed Howlin' Wolf, the Real Folk Blues. I mean, it's hard to find these sealed. The Chet Baker Playboys, Playboy sued them. They had to change this cover. Yeah, that's why you don't see this cover. And do you have this record right here?
I don't think so.
You gotta get, I mean, look, dude, look at the cover.
Yeah.
This is Lightning Slim, Rooster Blues on Excello. I mean, the cover. And then there's the Pink Floyd box I was telling you about.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. So it's got all the... Well, all right, dude. I appreciate you coming, man. You got a hell of a story. Starting from, scratching at the bottom, man, all the way to the top. you know, I'm sure it was a lot of hard work, and then, you know, but like I said, man, the passion, I'm so impressed with you still wanting to collect, still excited about learning something new. Still, you know, like I said, when we turned on the lights at the warehouse, man, to see your eyes, I feel that I'm kind of the same way, that I'm still so excited and still can't see doing anything else for a living, you know, and that we're just so fortunate. And let's keep this thing rolling, man. And dude, I appreciate you coming, man.
Great to see
All
you.
right.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, anytime, man, anytime. All right.